Hello and welcome to Catholic Alpha Radical Live, the podcast that helps you fix your Catholic marriage while also giving you winning tactics for marriage problems, girlfriend problems, and intimacy problems for men. But moreover, where my main mission is to keep you out of divorce court and where Marriage Unchained, the art of one flesh, divorce combat coaching is the flavor of the day while also helping men understand marriage and courting, not dating, in the Catholic faith. Why? Because dating is for sex and courting is for marriage. In this 218th episode, How to Stop Arguing in Marriage, 4 methods that never work, plus live phone calls from you. So get in that queue for some resolution to your marriage confusion. And so we are having technical issues because I cannot hear anything. So let me try that one more time. And so, as usual, we have the quote of the day. Quote, God had one son on earth without sin, but never one without suffering. End quote. St. Augustine of Hippo. I've helped hundreds of men in their marriages. Allow me to help you in yours. Get live Catholic marriage help Tuesday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, for some resolution to your marriage confusion. All right, and so we are on our subject for today. And of course, as we always try to do, give you some questions to pose what our subject is about. And so you can start thinking about that as we get to the main course. So the questions of the day, these are very powerful, and try to understand that um, problem solving in marriage is really hard sometimes. And that's is what we're going to mainly go over today is some things that you really shouldn't do when you're trying to not argue and not and problem solve and fix issues and critical things inside your marriage. So number one, the first question is, why do we argue with our spouse? A lot of times that's ego and pride. um, we feel we have to be right. We'd rather be right than keep a good relationship with our spouse at that particular moment. When we don't understand the pain this causes women when we argue with them and fight with them or say something that's cross. It really gets into them eventually, and over time it starts to degrade the marriage. Um, but when we're doing it at the time, we don't really think so. We just think, well, what I said was right and what she said is wrong, and that's kind of the way it's going to be. Number two, why didn't we argue like this when we were first dating? Well, we were trying to be on our best behavior, right? We were trying to keep her around a long time. We were trying to be intimate with her. We were trying to get a kiss. We were trying to hug and go on walks and hang out and stuff. And then if we start debating and argue with them and saying things that aren't quite appropriate and doing stuff that's not cool, then they don't want to hang out, right? They don't want to be with us anymore. That's why we don't do it when we first dating. But if we interacted like this, then she would become disinterested in us, and we didn't want that. But now it doesn't. It's different. When our wife, we start talking to them, we forget who they really are. Sometimes, and that does come with familiarity. Number three, why is solving conflicts in marriage so hard? Well, it's because we don't have a system to follow to stop things from going too far. A lot of times things are going too far. We know they are. We don't apologize. We don't say we're sorry. And things are going further than we want to, but we don't have a system or thing in place to say, hey, stop, you know. And others also, we get too comfortable with our spouse and begin to act and think in ways that turn them off. Okay, we get way too comfortable these days, way too comfortable with our spouse, especially our wife. and we forget that, that we're supposed to not neglect. We're supposed to give them a lot of attention, and we're supposed to kind of, work together to create a marriage that we both can communicate well in, and there's no walls up. Okay, so after the break, we will be back and get into those top 4 things. Bam. If you're getting value from this podcast and would like more personal marriage help, visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com for an opportunity to work with me personally for free. Yes, within 30 days, learn how to become a better husband that attracts your wife back to you. Visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com and get a plan tailored specific to your marriage and situation. I've helped hundreds of men in their marriages. Allow me the chance to help you using my personal and gained experience. Visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com for superior coaching for your marriage. Again, SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com. That's SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com to become the man God created you to be and the husband your wife needs. Lastly, I always get the question, why don't you help women? And I always answer them, I do. So, for all of you beloved wives out there that want to reignite that feeling of emotional closeness and complete love from your hubby, consider marriage coaching and visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com for an improved marriage within 30 days. Okay, here we go. As promised, the radical rant of the day: 4 conflict-solving methods that never work. So I used as a resource a book by Dr. Jack Ito called Connecting Through Yes. And so problem solving in marriage is critical to the survival of your marriage. If we aren't able to communicate in a way that creates an emotional connection, all is lost, and it is the beginning of the end. Okay. So, as I promised, in conflict solving methods that never work. Conflict solving methods that never work. Number 1, debate, arguing, and convincing. Okay. One of the things that I tell gentlemen in my program is when your wife wants a divorce or wants to leave and that kind of stuff, don't be trying to convince her to stay. Just go ahead and let her do what she wants to do. As far as that, the reason why is because if you do and she stays and things don't go right, then she's going to blame you, and she's already blaming you for everything else anyway. So you might as well not even do it. Let them go out and find out what the real world's about, and then when things start going bad, and that gives you time, guys, to a little time apart, and gives her time to get things together and work things out, and it gives you time to work things out. So in debate, each couple presents their viewpoint along with reasoning, examples, and evidence of their point of view. Simultaneously, they try to discredit their partner's position. Since there is no judge, there is no actual way of deciding a winner. Therefore, each person becomes more entrenched in their way of thinking, which makes it harder for them to give in. Once this happens, unfair tactics arise, such as being loud, which just causes the other person to shut down. Bringing in unrelated arguments means one person just brings up all of the past mistakes in the relationship. This is why in marriage, arguing and debating and convincing and criticizing and all of that stuff doesn't work. Because when you do that, what happens is the other person, they start to think of all the stuff you did. So if I say that I did, that you messed around on me, and you don't cook right, and you don't keep the house clean, and you said the mean things to me. Okay, she's gonna go probably, but then the first thing she's gonna do, she's gonna come back all the stuff you did. So basically, you're debating back and forth. You're trying to win over the argument. And then here's the deal: the critical thing I said about this method is that doesn't work is, there's no judge to determine who's right. This ain't a courtroom. So when you and your wife are arguing, and you might go, "Oh, I hear," and I've done this too. Well, I say something and that's right. What you gonna say about that kind of attitude, right? And then she don't say nothing. That don't mean that you're right. That just means that she's like, well, forget it. I don't feel like arguing about it no more. That just means that she's not agreeing with me. That just means she's deciding to not to engage in that anymore. Okay. And this is why it's important. Like in my family, on my side, my mother's side of the family, we get, my grandparents had 8 kids. So if you in the room and you don't speak loud and get loud, you're not going to be heard because you talking about 20 people talking. If you don't have that voice that gets above everybody for trying to prove your point, it's not going to work. So when people get married, that's what one of the partners, one of the spouses will go, they'll get loud and think that the louder I get, the more I'm proving I'm right. And that's not necessarily true. Okay. So number one was debate, arguing, convincing. Okay. Um, the second method to solving conflict. Oh, I'm sorry. The last thing I forgot to say about this is ending the debate by refusing to participate is a usual thing that happens, especially with women. This causes underlying resentment as nothing is really solved and the couple feels unlistened to by each other. And that's what the debate, arguing, and convincing thing does. People just shut down and they don't say anything. Okay. So, number two conflict resolution method that does not work is authority. So, in many cultures, one partner is deemed with the power to make the final decision. This usually doesn't work as many that are given this power have no idea how to actually use it. They refuse to consider their spouse and make the spouse the doormat, which causes resentment, anxiety, and stress. The spouse feels unlistened to, unappreciated, and taken for granted, which usually causes them to shut down and begin keeping their feelings and thoughts to themselves. Or they begin a constant barrage of debate and argument. Authority can work outside the marriage in that if it helps is sought from an authority that both spouses respect, such as God or a priest or a judge. It's important to understand that just because the decision is settled, it does not necessarily mean that each spouse emotionally agrees, but that they have decided to abide by the decision of the authority figure. And the reason that doesn't work is, now I know in the Christian faith, the Catholic faith, men have the authority given by God to make to kind of override everybody. But it's not this doormat kind of thing. It's the thing of we work together as a couple and we try to work it out. Um, and then you kind of defer to the person that has the best idea. That's kind of how you really, really should do it. But let's don't get it twisted. And at the particular judgment, when we are judged, the husband is the one that will be held responsible. So this is what authority's responsibility is. And so what happens is, and another thing too, somebody has to be the final say. Somebody has to be the tiebreaker. And the tiebreaker is usually a man who does it right. He's kind of it. Now, a lot of guys don't even like doing that. A lot of men don't like being like the final decision in the eyes of God. They really don't. So they shy away from it and let their wife just do everything and take the lead in everything. And then over time, the wife gets mad and says, well, why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you not helping? And blah, blah, blah. And then the man goes, well, you want to do everything. So it's kind of like this thing of, if you as a man don't man up and take responsibility in your home for what's going on, then eventually it will all crumble anyway. So, and what this usually means is that's God trying to get you as a man to man up in your home. Now, again, authority is a very touchy thing. And leadership and service. This is why leadership and service in the marriage is so very, very important. That you listen to your wife, you allow her to guide you, you allow her to be your counselor, you listen to what she says, you guys talk it out and consider what's going on, and then she really knows what the final decision is. Most women already know that, but they're just not going to let you run over them. And that's what a lot of men do when they don't really understand what leadership and authority in the home really means. Okay. And this is what, and when a man does it wrong, what happens is the wife starts to shut down over time. And this is the reason why a lot of women, when it comes to problem solving, they got a problem, they just keep it to themselves because they figure, well, he's not going to listen to me, or he's going to argue with me, or he's going to make me feel like I'm stupid and stuff like that. So a lot of times they won't tell their husband what's on their mind until they're walking out the door. Okay, so that's why the authority method of trying to solve conflicts does not work, because the other person, in this case, which would be the wife, she's like, if you don't cultivate that over years and time, she would just think you're being selfish and trying to be her, trying to just run over her. And most women, especially today, most women are not going to take that for long, and they're going to rebel in different kind of ways, like getting another man, like leaving, like avoiding you and shutting down, not talking, doing their own thing, Okay. So the number three way, that method of solving conflicts that never works, is, everybody knows this one: power and threat. So power and threat. So when the debate and the authority method don't work, men resort to power and threat. I've done that. you know, we all do it, right? If we think we got the upper hand, after we sit there, we try to debate with you and we try to argue with you, that don't work, and then we go, hey, I'm the one that's supposed to, I'm the one. We're not going to do my way, like authority type thing. Then we kind of resort to, well, look, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I got more power than you. We just gonna do what I say do. Go sit down, shut up, okay? you know, this really doesn't work. So one may threaten divorce or threaten to leave the marriage. One may threaten to take the kids. One may threaten to call the police. One may threaten to physically abuse and rule by fear. One may deny sexual intimacy. And since the other partner does not want them to leave or be unhappy, or they are fearful of losing their best friend or loved one, the wife or the husband complies. This again causes resentment and feelings of being taken as a hostage. Now, women do this a lot too. They will threaten divorce, they will threaten to take the kids and leave and go to their mother's house. They'll threaten to call the police. I think a woman who calls the police on her husband is just so disgusting. I really do. Um, because bringing the government in on your relationship is is so it's bad in a way, in that when you start bringing other people into your relationship, then it just makes it worse. You know, a lot of women, when they don't get their way, well, I'm just gonna pick up the phone and call up cops on you and get you arrested. You know, and that is so wrong. That's a very hard one to forgive for men, because that is a betrayal. We're sitting here arguing. So what we're arguing? I ain't hit you. I ain't did nothing to you. And because you're not getting your way, you're gonna call the police on me, because I want to move back into my house or whatever, silly stuff like that. And it's bad. It's really bad. And then in a lot of states today, what's starting to happen is, when the woman calls the police, they come and then they just take both their butt to jail. The woman wasn't expecting that, because women get this righteous thing, like I'm right and he's wrong, and blah blah blah, get all emotional, and they think the cop gonna come, they're gonna start crying, and he threatened me and all that stuff. And then the guy remains calm, and then the cop goes, well, look, we can't leave y'all here. We got to take both of you. So, and then they're gonna call the child services to come get your kids. And so that's a deterrent to a woman calling cops on her man. And not and most men, if they love their wife and care about her, and they start feeling themselves getting upset, or they start saying stuff that they know that is not good, they'll just walk away and they'll go get in a car or leave or something. But today, women will follow you and kick the door in. I had a dude, his wife, he's in the he walked away from her because she's losing her mind. He walked away from her and went in the bathroom and locked the door. Man, she kicked holes in the door and stuff. She's banging on the door, kicking holes in the door and stuff. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And she just lost her mind, her ever loving mind. Okay. So, but again, power and threat can be used by a man or a woman. Women have their way of power and threat, and men have their way. Women, the thing about women are wise is they know how to hurt us, don't they? Well, she been living with me for 10 years. She knows how what to get to me, how to push my buttons. Okay. And so power and threat is very bad. None of these work, but this one is really bad. But the last one, number 4, is the one I hate the most because it is of true cowardice on both sides. Number 4 conflict resolution issues that doesn't work, method that doesn't work, is avoidance. This is the most coward way I've seen in relationships. I just don't say nothing. I shut down and I don't, the person is trying to do right and apologize and all that stuff, and I still don't let them do it, or I go weeks and weeks and weeks, don't talk to them, and they're trying to apologize and trying to make things right. Or even worse, the person don't even know they did anything wrong, and then the person avoids the wife will avoid talking about it and telling her husband about it and trying to let him know what's going on, and he doesn't really know, and she avoids doing that, and that really makes things worse because he goes, "Well, you never said anything," and that goes along with, "Well, I didn't want us to argue and fight." Okay. Avoidance, number 4. All the other methods are bad, but I really hate this one. As I said, this is the total method of a coward, and many women use this, and men do too to some degree, but differently. Women use this because they feel they have done all they can, so they begin avoiding and not discussing anything. This allows the problem to fester in their relationship and in their mind, creating walls and barriers. This eventually causes them to enter the wife's exit strategy of shutting down, of nagging, leaving, asking for a divorce. Men use this in a slightly different way. We see the problem, but we don't see it as an immediate threat, so we put off solving the problems. This breeds procrastination and laziness and the unwillingness to confront any serious issues until it is way too late in the game. That's men. We will wait and wait and wait and try to solve a relationship problem when it's so late that the person then gave up so bad they don't want to have nothing to do with you. Now you're in emergency mode. The man is in emergency mode, and the wife is like, "Look, I didn't done all that. I'm over you." You know, and this is why avoidance is a big thing. Taking people for granted. But women use it differently than men. Like I said, women use it to make plans to leave, to decide if they're going to divorce them or not. They'll talk to everybody else under the sun, but they won't talk to their husband, and they'll go years, 1, 2, 3, 4 years making plans to leave, and they never tell their husband about their problems or what's going on and give him a chance to work it out. But on the flip side, if a husband doesn't know how to talk to his wife, if he's doing silly stuff, not being a real man, not being a good husband, and things like that, then he keeps justifying his wife's. In her mind, he keeps justifying why she's making her plans, because we all justify what we do. We have to. We have to justify in our mind the things we do to keep us sane, right? So, yeah, when the wife enters the exit strategy, this is what usually happens. This is what has happened. She's avoidant. She's not trying to talk anymore or listen anymore. She's trying to get out of there. Both spouses use avoidance because they don't feel confronting will make the problem better, or yet confronting will make it worse, or make them feel worse, or cause a debate and argument issue. What happens is nothing gets solved because long-term resentment and walls build up. We always come we always come to that resentment and walls building up issue, don't we? These days, it's real easy for the walls to come up. People put them up really quick. We already got a lot of walls, but they always seem to come up, especially in marriage. And then the last one, which is kind of like a bonus, but kind of a putting it all together type of thing. Number 5 is understanding where you are. A marriage with no good way of resolving issues and arguments has a pattern that is easily recognizable. Initial closeness is present, right? So at the beginning, we're at the beginning when we get married or we're dating, everything is cool, right? So initial closeness is present. So we built that emotional closeness with each other and everything's fine. Then the petty argument starts. And no one really knows how that happens. I mean, it's one of those things of I believe is getting too comfortable again. Like I can just say anything I want, and then if I apologize, she's gonna forgive me or he's gonna forgive me. But the thing with people today, we allow our emotions to rule everything outside of our logic. And if a person is apologizing, and it's another thing. If a person apologizes and they're sincere and they don't do it again, boom, you don't hold a wall against them. Doesn't make sense to. That's a waste of energy. But I understand why some people I understand why some remain upset because the person has done the same thing 25,000 times and they've apologized 24,000 times, and the wife or the spouse is like, look, man, I didn't listen to this all. I'm tired of you apologize. Your apologies don't mean nothing. And so that's really where the wall comes up, is when a person says I'm sorry, but then they keep doing the same stuff, and then the person starts to go, well, you know what, they're not serious and they're just trying to hurt me. And so of course they put walls up. you know it's hard to bring that down once that happens, and that's when we start to enter what the followed by the next is the followed by the large major arguments. Start with the petty arguments, then we go to the big major arguments of calling people each other's names and stuff, and trying to do things to hurt the person. And then we go too far in the argument. Instead of, we can make it personal, say things to our wife that we really don't mean, but we're trying to win the argument, so that's what we do. And the wife starts saying you're not a real man, and some women try to get you to hit them and all that kind of stuff. Man, this is not how it works, man. This is not how it works. Okay, this stuff never works. Then and then comes avoidance of the issues altogether. So then, after the petty arguments, then the major arguments, and then that's when the avoidance thing starts. Like, both just start not saying nothing to each other, right? They don't go for walks, they don't go out to dinner, they don't make love, they don't hold hands together, they don't watch TV together, they don't do nothing. They don't talk. They say hello and goodbye because they don't want the arguments, and the walls is built up, right? So that's avoidance. So you start avoiding all the issues because it's easier that way. It's easier not to talk, you know, especially if both are not talking, then there's no fighting anymore. Okay. But the problem with that is, next is the rejection and abandonment happens. So I reject you in sex. I reject in being your husband or wife. I reject. So then the kids start to feel it, right? So I'm not gonna be a. I'm gonna try to act like I'm a good father, mother, but I really ain't, because I'm fighting with my husband and my wife, and it's not working because the kids see everything. So rejection happens. There's no more intimacy. That's over. And then abandonment. One of the spouses leaves, and and then it's kind of, now we're in crisis mode, right? Does any of that stuff I just said sound familiar? Of course it does. Um, so, real quick, one of the things that helps prevent argument is one of the things that's called the agreement method. And what you do is you only agree with, to solve these things, you only agree with what you agree with when your partner's talking. Stop getting into these debates and fights, because only an idiot argues with somebody who agrees with them. Then you empathize. If you did something wrong, your wife has a problem, you empathize with her, say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that, and I understand why you feel the way you feel. Support, you listen, when before there's a real argument or she's upset, you support her by listening to her and not interrupting her and letting her get it all out. And then you cooperate. You guys cooperate together. Like, what can you do to make things better? If this is how you solve arguments where all those other things, four things I just talked about, they don't happen, or the abandonment method, the abandonment thing doesn't happen, of the initial closeness, petty arguments, major arguments, avoidance, and then the rejection and abandonment, then that is less likely to happen. um and this is what's wrong with a lot of people. We today we are demonically oppressed. So the demonic gets in our heads and gives us things, whispers sweet nothings in our ears and makes suggestions. And we know a lot of times when we're arguing with our wife, or we're starting to get upset, we know when we're starting to get upset, but we keep going. And that is one of the things where, you can do a stress technique. Like, one of the things that I do is, like, you say Hail Marys. And so that'll calm you down. And then you try to end that argument and say, walk away, and then come back and then try to engage later where everybody's calmed down. And so that's, I didn't really want to, I just went into how to solve these things a little bit. I'll do a longer show on that. But today I just want to go over some things that, that never work when you're trying to solve conflicts. And I hope that you really understand that, man, this stuff doesn't work. It won't work. Matter of fact, it makes things 10 times worse. Bam. Get live Catholic marriage help Tuesday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Live streamed on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and CatholicAlpha.com. If you're getting value from this podcast and would like more personal marriage help, visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com for an opportunity to work with me personally for free. Yes, within 30 days, learn how to become a better husband that attracts your wife back to you. Visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com and get a plan tailored specific to your marriage and situation. I've helped hundreds of men in their marriages. Allow me the chance to help you using my personal and gained experience. Visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com for superior coaching for your marriage. Again, SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com. That's SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com to become the man God created you to be and the husband your wife needs. Lastly, I always get the question, why don't you help women? And I always answer them, I do. So, for all of you beloved wives out there that want to reignite that feeling of emotional closeness and complete love from your hubby, consider marriage coaching and visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com for an improved marriage within 30 days. All right. And so we are done for the day. But what I want to do is go over, review what we went over to give you something to take home with you this weekend. So conflict solving methods that never work. And this is what I want you to really leave here today to know that this stuff doesn't work. And then what we're gonna do probably within the next few weeks is start going over the stuff that does work. All right. So number one in conflict methods that don't work is never debate, argue, or convince. Don't be trying to convince your wife to do stuff she don't want to do, especially when it comes to divorce and leaving all that stuff. Okay. Debate and argument never works because there's no real judge. People shut down, they get mad, they get resentful. Number two method that doesn't work is authority, using your authority in the wrong way. Of course, we all know in the Catholic Church, in the Christian faith, that the man is the leader. He's supposed to die to himself, submit. He's supposed to submit to Christ so that his wife will submit to him. And then women submit to their husband in Christ so that the kids will submit to the wife. Okay, that's kind of how it goes. But a lot of people do their authority in the home wrong. Women do too, and so remember, authority and leadership is about service. It's about serving. And that's how that works. And so that's two, authority. Then number three, Power and threat. This method doesn't work either. You overuse your power to get somebody to do something, or you threaten them to get them to do something, and that won't work over the long term. It might work when your wife still cares about you. It might work when your husband still loves you and stuff. But eventually, what will happen is, if you keep using this method, it will just destroy the marriage. It will destroy your relationship, and the emotional connection will get crushed. And then the fourth, to me, which is the worst one, is avoidance. And the avoidance doesn't work because you haven't learned how to solve the problem. The problem, even though you avoid the problems, the problem is still there. The problem's still there. That's why this method is the worst in my mind, because it doesn't get anything solved. At least in a small way, arguing, debating, and stuff, that doesn't work. But at least you're trying your best to figure out how to get this going. When you avoid your wife or you avoid your husband, I mean, nothing's getting solved. We just don't talk. Well, did I sign up for that? Did you sign up for that kind of marriage? Of course you didn't. So that is why we go along. And again, the last thing we talked about is understanding where you are. So this is how this kind of thing starts, and this is how the emotional connection is busted. Is, first of all, we all start with the initial closeness. We all love each other, right? Our husband and wife, they love each other. Then the petty arguments start. Then when that don't work, then the major arguments begin, and then they start to avoid each other altogether. And then we have rejection and abandonment. All right, so that is the show for today. I hope you guys got a little bit out of that. I know I'm a little dry today, man, but you know what? It's Thursday. My weekend starts today. This is like my Friday. And so, but I guarantee you next week, I'll be back to my normal self. So thank you all for hanging out. And we end, as we always do, with a quote from Pope Benedict XVI, which states, "Society offers you comfort. You weren't made for comfort. You were made for greatness. Now go forth, Christian soldier. The spiritual fight is up on you. Fast, pray, and prepare for battle." Thank you for listening in today. If what you heard helped you in any way and you would like more personal attention, visit SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com for superior marriage coaching. And remember to join the Catholic Alpha Radical Live podcast as a caller or listener every Tuesday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern. To join as a caller, dial area code 313-RADICAL. To join as a listener or view the live stream, visit the Catholic Alpha Radical Live Facebook page or visit CatholicAlpha.com for Catholic marriage help that actually works. Bam!